Good evening and welcome to the August 6th meeting of the Waukesha Grove Town Council. If you can have a roll call, please.
Mayor Browning.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hill.
Here.
Councilman Smith. Councilman Green. Councilman Bradford.
Here. If you'd stand for the pledge, remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, again, we ask for wisdom and guidance. We thank you that we didn't have to experience a storm this time, that it was taken away. We pray for those that are serving our country overseas. We pray all these things in your name. Amen. All right. Any additions to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. Okay. Yeah. You want to take something out?
Yeah, delete old business 10B.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda. Okay. Ryan makes a motion for a second. Second by Tom. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Moving to consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make some changes to the minutes. We remove that from the consent agenda, take it separately.
Okay. That's fine. So we're going to take last meeting's minutes out.
Minutes from July 16th and if the council so agrees to the changes.
Okay. Now, if we take those out right now, can we go ahead and discuss them afterwards, or should
We
we?
can take them out, we can vote on the other item, which is the invoices, and I do have a comment. There was one that was added as a cost invoice for the paddle work authorized on Bryan Road. It just came in off time, it can move closed out the month.
Okay, so we're going to remove the minutes of July 16th, and Mike wants us to include an invoice for $750 in the consent agenda. Someone want to make that motion? Okay. Tom makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ron. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, moving to public comments.
You want to discuss the minutes?
Yeah, let's discuss the minutes now.
Okay.
We'll just separate that out. Go ahead, Jim.
Our page, on our page, on package 18, which is page also on it's 18 of the packet, but it's like page 2 or so. Page, top of the page 18. Back to it. Sorry. There's a section in here that talks about vendor addressing the council. And I thought it wasn't complete enough as far as the comment they were making was that they asked, or they made a comment to the council about the maintenance of mowing and whatnot should be done every 45 days. I think that adds a lot to what, they just right then there's a question of just challenging the contract. They said this specific item they thought should be something we should be pursuing. And I took it just as that, but if we don't say that in there in the minutes, we don't know what they were talking about. And I think that that's specific enough to it's item 3 on the page 18, first item. It was specific to that they were suggesting we should do 45-day maintenance, and we heard it. So that's all. That's what they commented. It wasn't just a carte blanche statement that they did not agree with the contract. You know, saying, we don't know what they're talking about unless we add that in.
Okay.
So, and that was what they were saying, so I thought that was important to add. Yeah, other thing, when later on, when I get to page, page 3, 4.
Yeah, before we get there, is there something specific you'd like to say, so we can agree with that and move on with that?
Well, yeah, the item that I said was that they talked about adding, that they commented on 45 days. It wasn't, if that wasn't said in the minutes, we had no idea what they were talking about. So that was specific enough that that's what I suggested.
So we'd like to say that they suggested that we
Yeah,
do
that's
mowing,
all.
hedging on a 45-day
Yeah.
recurring basis.
That's what they were talking about.
Essentially summing up what they said. And if Sue adds that, then we look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what that was, because otherwise I'm back trying to, I'm saying, no, what I said.
You're right. That's good.
The only, and I would just caution, I mean, minutes aren't supposed to be verbatim of everything that's said. These were comments by people in the audience. It really probably should have become an agenda item rather than these comments by, by people. But anyway,
Well,
we can put that in, whatever you want to put in there.
Okay, well, that's all, it was really just,
All right.
verbiage that we're talking about 45 days. The only reason I put it in there because it was a complete paragraph following it that from town manager's comments about the items that were being brought up, and it wasn't clear that they were speaking of that 45 days. There's a lot said, but, so I'm trying to be complete.
Okay.
Otherwise, we leave it out. I don't have to have it in. The other thing was when we talked about the,
All right, before we go any further, let's take care of this one a little bit first.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to add in there, Jim?
that their comments, I'll give you my wording if you need that, regarding terms of contract for mowing, but they addressed town council regarding the 45, that suggestion 45-day interval should be followed for vegetation.
Okay.
Trimming. That's what they,
All right. Everybody all right with putting that in there? Okay. All right, consensus-wise, we add that, suggestion was 45 days cycle.
Right, and then we get to page 25, item 11, new business. This was the annual management team evaluation. After the first paragraph, and then there are 2 more lines after that, it doesn't leave clear what he said on the subject. And what I think we need to add is that since the documentation that we needed, my statement was that since the documentation we needed to do an evaluation was not complete, that we put this off until such a time as the town manager brings it back when he can schedule it as an evaluation. By saying no further action taken, I think we missed the point that we, as far as I'm concerned, we put it off, and it will be something to come back. Now, if the council doesn't agree that they expect to see that on an evaluation, then I said it, but they don't have to agree. But I said it pretty much. That's what we said. You can't disagree with what I said, but you can disagree if you don't expect, as a council, to see an evaluation come back to us from the town manager. But it doesn't really explain it, and I left it like, well, it's done, and it wasn't done. So I like to add that. I put it off because of the criteria was incomplete, and left it for the town manager to bring it back to us. That's what I said.
What we probably ought to do is take these 2 items, put this off until the next meeting. Take these 2 items, let's go back over the recordings, make sure these things were in there, and add them to the thing. We want to be careful we don't add things to minutes that weren't done or whatever.
I agree, Mayor, and I would just say to the second item that Councilman Rocket brought up, it ends with there was no further action taken, but our recollection was after he laid out his response, the council didn't offer any further comments, and that was the reason why it was like that. Relative to any evaluation, I guess my response to the council would be, you tell me what you want me to, how you want me to handle it, what you want me to do with it, and we'll be happy to bring it at a future meeting.
Okay, all right. Check those two items out against the report and see if there's anything we missed. And let's go on with the meeting.
We want to do a motion to table that to next, or a motion, well, never mind, no action.
We just pulled it out, so, you know. Do we need a motion to table it until the next meeting? Okay. All right, I've got 3 comments by the public. I've got Phyllis Meniglia, is that correct? Come on up, Phyllis. And I've got Keith Harris and Penelope Rico. Okay.
Phyllis Menilia, 359 Muskie Road. And my comment is about the drinking and the loitering and the trash in our Waxahachie. I've been complaining about pretty much the A&G market is where I feel it started. In 2010, I know Officer Combs because we've had some discussions from when Frank was the manager. Okay, he made the A&G clean it up. It was like 3 feet of trash along the fence, if anybody remembers. And we've made several attempts to try to stop the drinking in front of the store. Well, the problem now is the A&G has spread over to the old bait and tackle store. I don't know how they did it, but we were afraid they were going to put a liquor store in there. But anyway, they sell beer and cash checks, as far as I know, and that's pretty much it. Now there's Mary's in the back of the same plaza, which is a full-blown bar on the weekends. Full-blown bar. I mean, I have pictures of the dumpster on a Sunday morning, and the reason why I'm so upset is 2 Sundays ago, I came to the plaza at 10 o'clock in the morning. The guys were standing in front of the bait and tackle. There were 4 of them drinking. There was just lines of beer bottles and cases of beer, of used cases all over the plaza. And that's the first thing people see when they come to Waxahachie, see Waxahachie. So I wanted to bring that up. I know there's a couple of guys, like I've been told that, oh, I'm gonna screw it up for the auto parts store guys, so I love them. They don't sell beer there. And at the end of the day, they crack the beer, they sit in front of their little auto parts store. I don't want to ruin things for that. But I think the A&G is ruining it for all of us. The postal ladies clean up bodily fluids in the winter because these guys drink and take refuge in there. I would like to make one quick suggestion, if I might, which might help the problem. I don't want to tell anybody to go because the man in the plaza has to make money. But my suggestion is that perhaps the town of Waxahachie would consider taking that corner, opening the windows so our city manager and everybody can see Waxahachie and what's going on. It's a big spot. Maybe we could have a place where we could have our local businesses put their wares out or signs or, encourage people to come and buy in Waxahachie. We could have a job list. I'd be willing to volunteer my time to do something like that. I just think we got to bring Waxahachie Groves back. We lost the plaza right now, and that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you.
Okay, Keith Harris.
Already, I would like to say I concur with you. Very close to the property.
Mark, I think that's something we're going to have to address. And when we talk to the sheriff's department, I know it's against the law to drink in public. There's certain things we're just going to have to maybe crack down, get a little more, request a little more enforcement. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Keith Harris. I reside at 2580 C Road. In April April 2nd meeting of Town Council, I requested relief for commercial equine operations from the special exception use review requirement of the town's ULDC, as it is in conflict with state statutes. Statutes that limit duplicative regulation of bona fide farming operations. In June, I forwarded a Palm Beach County Attorney's Office email to the town manager, of which has been acknowledged received by the town planner. The contents of that email confirms that the state statutes I shared with you on April 2nd also makes my commercial equine operation exempt from the Palm Beach County Commercial Stables permit requirement, and the $400 permit fee is available for refund. My property is zoned agricultural residential and has been classified agricultural by the Palm Beach County property appraiser. I have filed a notice of intent to implement best management practices for Florida equine operations with the Florida Department of Agriculture. I am a bona fide farming operation. Recently, the town demonstrated it can process a ULDC text amendment in 2 months' time. It's been 5 months since I asked for help from my town government. I would like to think that cavalry is coming, but unfortunately, the ULDC will not let me provide orders for their horses.
Thank you, Keith. Penny?
Good evening, council members. Penny Riccio, RICCIO, 12795, 71st Place North in the Acreage. This evening, I'm speaking on behalf of my employer, Sadar Trucking and Tractor Service. We were quite pleased to win the bid to do your maintenance, your mowing, and your vegetation removal and disposal. In clarification to the 45 days, that was in our expert opinion what should be in order for you to maintain a schedule. Prior to the council hiring us, being that I'm familiar with Loxahatchee Groves, it was an on-demand situation where you did the mowing, the vegetation removal, and the disposal. So when you hired us as experts to do that work, we diligently, very diligently, actually to the point of neuroticism on my part, having detailed handwritten records. And having said that, we started our job on July 5th. Sadar Trucking and Tractor started our job on July 5th. We can understand concerns from the council as well as the town manager, as well as the town public work coordinator. And having said that, our operations today, as of July 7th at 5 p.m. this afternoon, were suspended by your town manager. And I would ask that this item, in full disclosure and sunshine and open government, be placed on the agenda this evening so we could have open discussion as opposed to one-on-one discussion, because we were not given a reason for why the operation was shut down. Thank you very much, council, for your time.
We've already set our agenda for tonight, so I mean, the best we could do would be put it on the next meeting's agenda.
If you want, I'll just give you a brief comment, Mayor. What we,
What's that?
I would object to putting it on the agenda right now, or actually in the future, other than having Mark should deal with the issue, rather than
Right.
he or he should recommend it.
But I'm going to put it on the agenda tonight.
No, absolutely.
I just want to make a clarifying comment, because what was just described to you is not really what happened. We asked them to cease and desist. They basically stop work right now in the middle of their fourth notice to proceed. We asked them to stop until we have a meeting that we have called for next Wednesday, because we have some reservations and concerns about the building that they submitted to us, the invoicing, yesterday. We need the time to take a look at it, we need the time to sit down with them. And this is about the second time they're trying to do an end run around town management coming directly to town council. So, you know, we're certainly willing to work with them. We are certainly willing to discuss it with you tonight. I don't want, I think it's not appropriate to get council in the middle of this. But again, it's not being portrayed properly, so I just wanted to be aware.
Okay. All right, Virginia Standish.
Virginia Standish, 15410 North Road. I'm speaking as the chairman of the ULDC committee and addressing Mr. Harris's concerns and also commenting on what has been going on. One, I am too stunned that a text amendment can be done for a pool so quickly when the equestrians of this community have for years been asking that equestrian be considered a permitted use. It seems to take us eons to accomplish that, but boy, that pool text amendment will probably happen very quickly for one property. We did ask that equestrian and commercial be considered a permitted use. I believe it was his thought that brought that motion forward, and we voted on that. I believe, and Jim can vouch for this, and Mark was there too. At the last, I believe it was the last meeting, I questioned when that was going to be presented to the PZB committee, and Jim made a comment to me that, oh, we had postponed that to be discussed in an ag section. So I myself was confused. I have to go back and listen to the recordings because I believe we specifically requested that equestrian commercial be a permitted use.
Let me, if I can address that, there were a couple of issues with that. You may remember when I gave the town council several meetings back a report on the activities of the ULDC. As I was reading through what actions they had taken, most of the actions had been taken via an actual motion. What I looked at in the minutes indicated that while you discussed it, it was kind of left open-ended as far as a motion. And you may remember we brought it back, we discussed it again. There is no question. You recommended to town council that equestrian equine operations be made a permitted use, not a special exception. And we are addressing that as part of the amendment that Jim is working on now, and town council several meetings ago gave us the go-ahead. Remember, I asked you, I said, can we move on this particular item aside from all the other recommendations that the ULDC is making? You gave us that authority to go ahead and do that. Now, Jim can tell you where he's at in the process or when we're ready to go to P&Z, but he's working on that amendment now.
Right, and again, that is my point. Mr. Harris makes a valid point, is like that, we can deal with a pool, private issue, but something that benefits the entire community, we cannot. And I just want to let you know the ULDC does support the commercial equestrian as permitted use. And Jim can address the rest.
Okay,
Thank you.
so,
I mean, the way we actually address the pool issue, is I don't know that it's correct that the amendment's been completed or anything, but what we did was we made it a zoning in progress, which I would be glad to have that be the situation for this, if you all made that. It's in process anyway, but, I'm on the floor, but.
Well,
I don't know, Mr. Harrison said in an earlier memo that I read that it was there was a time frame, but that time frame hasn't had a time to go before we got where he was in the problem. If that's not the case, and we're at a point where it's becoming time sensitive for him, well, then certainly, I've always supported agriculture. I don't see why he should have a permit for his barn, so.
Well, I'm not, and let me clarify here, I'm not speaking to one individual.
I don't know
in
that
general.
anybody here is saying not to do this.
No. I just want to bring this forward now that this is, I wasn't
So
really
he understands
expecting.
we're not in an adversarial situation.
Right.
I
My point is that we
I'm
did,
perceiving that.
in general, for the entire community, we believe as soon as possible. And I would like to say, I'd love to see this moved up before the pool.
okay, all right. So,
Thank you.
we'll try to do that.
But Jim needs to address.
Okay, I want to be careful, this is comments by the public. We're quickly, it's becoming like an agenda item where we're talking and we're answering and we really don't want to get to that much. This is our comments, it's noted, we're going to deal with it with the ULDC. I don't think anybody up here is against what you're talking about. We've just got to give it to the right people. So anyway, if you want to make a quick comment, Jim, again, this is comments by the public. I don't want it to become another agenda item.
I'll make a very quick comment. The ULDC committee did recommend that commercial equipment operations be determined to be a permitted use and not require special exceptions. We were addressing that item at the same time that we were addressing the broader issue of special exceptions and how we're going to address them. And that's a much more complicated, much more detailed issue. And we're in the process of writing up the amendments. The special exception amendments are essentially finished. The amendment to change commercial equestrian special exception to permitted is just a matter of making a change on the table. So that's a very simple change. We're hoping to take both of the amendment packages, the special exception and commercial equestrian, to the next month's P&Z meeting.
All right, Ron.
Just one question to legal. Brought up the thing about the pond. The lady came to us with the pond, she got put on the agenda, and for the pool, okay, and so it was taken care of because she got put on the agenda. But my question to legal is, can we take care of this situation with change in progress? Because it's obvious you're gonna make it happen. So that's my question. In other words, if you would came the same night the pool lady came, we might could have taken care of your problem the same night if it would have been on the agenda. I'm just telling you, Keith, she came and it was taken care of. So you don't need to single her out like we're making special exceptions.
Well, I mean, you have historically adopted motions to declare zoning progress while you're processing these items. I don't know to what extent anybody would need permits or anything from other government entities that would want to recognize your actual text. But if you want to adopt a motion this evening to suggest, give direction to confirm zoning progress, but that's not on the agenda.
Again, it's not on the agenda, and you would really win it, we'll just have a meeting and just add whatever night.
Why don't you put it on for next meeting? And that's probably a better way of dealing with zoning
I think
progress,
that would be a
because
good
then
idea.
we can prepare a resolution
If we even need it.
if you even need it by
Yeah,
then.
because as Jim is indicating, we're shooting for the September P&Z meeting, which would mean you probably see a first reading probably your second meeting in September. We're finishing up in October, so, I mean, it's not a big time waste.
Okay. All right.
But we
Keith, you all right with that?
I will share with you that it took me 3 months going through the LDC
All right.
to get this thing through.
Okay.
I-
Well, we're getting it on
I'm
the
gonna get
agenda.
out. If I'm gonna get out.
All right, step up, I got another card for you. I don't like doing multiple cards for anybody, because again, this is comments by the public. But,
My comment is this. I was invited to attend the LDC meeting. I went there to speak about commercial equine operations. That night, it was on the agenda for special exception use review. The 4-hour meeting was adjourned without allowing me to speak. In May, I made a presentation. One of the board members made a recommendation to remove it from the special use review. The group agreed. In June's meeting, town management said that was only an assessment. So they actually made a motion, seconded, and voted it. In the June meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board, in an administrative update, the town manager announced to the Planning and Zoning Board members that the next month's agenda would include ULDC text amendments. July's meeting was canceled, August's meeting was canceled. What's going to happen in September?
all right, moving to item 5, the Financial Committee. Virginia,
Yeah.
I'm all back.
I'm distracted now. Virginia Standish reporting before the Financial Committee for the month ending June 30th, 2013. The June financials were approved 5-0. The bank balance was $3,159,114.03. Revenues received were 49.5% of annual revenue budgeted. However, year-to-date expenses exceeded revenues by $534,396. If you deduct the $400,000 that's being moved around for capital improvements, you're still over by $134,396. Mr. Chu specifically asked that I discuss two things with you. In regard to the business plan initiative priority list that you have the town management prepared, he suggested using some other factors that would help you perhaps identify your priorities. In those, he suggested identifying the cost of each item, the timeline of each item. Also consider if this is something that can be done in-house or contracted when you're ranking your priorities. And let's see, anything else related to that? That would cover that. He also was very concerned about the property tax values report. As I discussed with him, this is Florida. We all know real estate goes up and down. But however, he did ask me, he specifically pointed to property value 2013 report that was in the Palm Beach Post on June 28th. And since I have a home in the town that had the highest increase in value, I can tell you it's a small community. And the thing about it is it focuses on community. And they focus on keeping costs down, and they are government-like. I think as we go through this cycle, property values will go up. We also had a discussion that was brought up that perhaps ag was keeping the community back. And I stated I do not believe that's true. What I do believe is true, and I'll give you an example of a 3700 B Road, there are properties that are claiming ag, that are actually industrial sites for their businesses. That may be something that is holding property values back. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. All right, do we need a motion to accept this report?
No motion.
Jim makes a motion to accept. Ryan second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Moving to item 6A.
Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and read the ordinance title. This is second reading and public hearing for ordinance number 2013-04. An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Waxahachie Groves, Florida, adopting the 5-year schedule of improvements for the capital improvements element of the Town of Waxahachie Groves Comprehensive Plan pursuant to state statute, providing for conflict, severability, and effective date.
Okay. Discussion. Council.
Give them all to the items again, line items.
Whatever you want. Or we take a motion and go. With
Well,
discussion.
you have a public hearing.
What's that?
You have a public hearing that you have to open.
Okay. So we have a public hearing. We need to swear people in. We're going
It's
to
not quasi-judicial.
Okay. All right. You want to go over each one?
Well, I just, I know we talked about the items and we made some changes during our last meetings. I thought we had made changes on the traffic light where we were supposed to just put, I thought, a $250,000 amount in next year, in this current first fiscal year, first year of the budgets, and eliminate the 220. You've seen that 220 in 13-14 and 250 in 2015-14-15. I thought we just said put 250 in there for the light, cable light, and that would be sufficient in this coming year, and don't need the 220 also. Let's see where we go, and if we find something else, then we'll make a budget amendment. I didn't see the need to put 400.
I agree with you. Okay. Mark, you got an answer for that?
Well, as it relates to the 250, that's going to be in the second out, or the first out year after the capital budget year. So technically, it's a planning number and not a budget number. So you have the flexibility to either leave it in or take it out.
Okay.
My suggestion is we put 250 and 213, 214, take, and that's all we have on that line.
All right, everybody agree with that? That's fine. All right. Okay, is that all right with you, Mark?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, anything else?
No, it's on it.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Public hearing, you have to formally open it.
Okay, so it's open as a public hearing. Anyone want to speak to it? If not, public hearing is closed.
Yes, okay.
All right. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion we adopt ordinance, it's 21304. We could change, one change that we made.
Okay, so second. Second by Ryan. Motion by Jim. Further discussion? All in favor? Roll call vote.
Councilman Brackett,
Yes.
Councilman Ryan,
Yes.
Councilman Listening, Vice Mayor Darrell,
Yes.
and Mayor.
Yes. All right, moving on to item 8A.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and read the title and I'll do a brief explanation of the item. This is proposed resolution 2013-09, resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Waxahachie Groves, Florida, accepting the quitclaim deed from the Waxahachie Groves Water Control District for portions of North A Road, South C Road, North C Road, and North D Road as legally described in the quitclaim deed attached here to Exhibit 1, providing for the recording of the quitclaim deed and authorization to take steps necessary to effectuate the intent of the resolution, providing for matters relating to the roads, providing for conflict, voting effective date. This quitclaim deed will transfer the Water Control District's interest in these particular roads. These are the roads that were subject to the special act to the town. It is on their agenda for next Monday. I do want to point out for the record, there was a typo in my memo which Ms. Herzog noted, and I want to correct this in the second bullet point. It should be a quarter mile each direction from C Road, because of course that second bullet point references C Road. So, but it had nothing to do with the resolution or the ordinance. I'm sorry, with the quitclaim deed. So I'm asking for you to consider adoption of this resolution, and upon the execution and delivery from the Water Control District, which again is on their agenda Monday night, we will move forward to record it in the public records.
All right.
It's the same form that was used for Brian and
Yeah,
Compton and Marcella.
It's just the same thing, public hearing.
And it's not a public hearing, except public comment.
Any comments for Tom?
Question. What about the missing sections of North Road that are not included in the special act with us?
What I would recommend is that wasn't one of the items that we have direction on or even had asked the Water Control District for. What you could do is, after you take care of this, you could discuss whether you want to authorize us to work on that transfer as well, and in that same motion, ask the Water Control District if they could consider it Monday night, so that we can get that moving too. But that's not part of this, because that wasn't, the town did that separate from the special act.
Does that answer your question? Tom?
You answered my question, but it brings up, I believe that's problematic for something that we discussed at the last meeting. When Bill required North Road to be turned over. At the time, I thought I heard someone say that it would be done by September 30th. It does not sound that way.
This was going to be done by September 3rd.
All right.
I believe the other part that was problematic.
Can we go ahead and put something in requesting that it includes North Road?
Well, we don't have that work done yet. North Road, I mean, I'd like to talk about North Road separate, because what we have here is just the letter roads from the special act.
Okay.
I do think we should discuss North Road, and we can tonight, but we could not make it part of this because we don't, there is no legal description for what we did. That's one of the steps you would have to do, is to get that done.
All right, so we're dealing with
Just
just,
the special act roads.
okay, Ron?
I believe what Tom's trying to say though is that the special act roads include part, sections of.
Well, this does.
Does it?
That- It's the other parts that I thought was something that Jim was trying to do with the budget.
Yeah, this includes the quarter-mile stretches on either side, and then what the district did is pursuant to special act, they recorded the roadway maps, and then knows That's what provides the legal description here is what was recorded in those roadway maps. It's the gaps or hiatuses, whatever you want to call them, that the town council did separately that need to be addressed on North Road.
Okay, all right.
Motion for Dr.
Yeah, we'll make a motion and we'll, okay. Who's gonna make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Adopt
Jim.
Resolution 213-09.
Okay, Jim makes a motion, Tom seconds it. Further discussion by council.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think we can include the other pieces in terms of what we want them to do. Let's take that on next.
Yeah, we'll take that.
See if we can't ask Water Control District, maybe you can get ahead of us and say, let's put that road down as something we'd like them to act on, like they're doing on this. And maybe they can start it, we can finish it. The other thing that we've got another big elephant that we're trying to chew, which is collecting canal. And when we do that, I would like the council to consider the little 600 feet or so of roadway that we did not pave, that we have this great North Road that you can drive on, but when you get off, it's trying to leave the community, when it's school, we have to drive on that little bumpy road. So that would be something else, another piece that we could ask the Water Control District to handle the same way and then quit claim deed.
I think that one will be unique, because I don't know if the water control board truly owns that. We'll see. All right,
Yeah, I mean, if we ask them to do it,
That's okay,
they can tell us what they need to do. But that's, over and above what we're doing now, but let's make it clear what we want to
The
do.
South T Road piece too, since we put that on. Talking about South, we're gonna do the paving from here and back to the bridge and such, that should also be something they ought to be working on as well.
okay. John Ryan?
John Ryan, 3508A Road. The way the district understood and was coordinating with the town attorneys, to my understanding and recollection was, we were looking at two pieces to complete by September 30th. The first piece was what's before you tonight, 4 Special Act road segments. The two oddball items that were also involving Ocean Road segments were the fill-ins on North Road and North F and South F. And the way that we were proceeding with this was because of the history and involvement of the district in the various Ocean Road segments that are being paid, including the fact that we have escrowed funds for the portion of F Road from Collecting Canal to Southern, is that we were timing the quit claim deeds when we completed the ocean work so that we wouldn't get further confused in terms of whether surveys were complete, whether maintenance maps were recorded, and whether funds needed to be transferred to complete the work. So I think we're taking it in steps. I think we realized that we had a deadline of September 30th to complete the North Road and the F Road segments. And we're just taking it in 2 steps.
Thanks, John. All right, Phyllis? Come on.
I was wondering, Phyllis Cornelia, 359 West Road. Are we going to be able to open the gates once we get access of those roads to do some horse trails through there?
I think that's probably a separate item right now. We're just taking on the ownership of the roads. I know where to go. But anyway, that's something that we're going to want to do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
And council, would you mind just do a second motion to authorize us to take whatever steps are necessary to work with the district on the North Road and F Road gaps?
Sure.
I make such a motion.
Jim makes a motion, second by Tom. Heard of him before, Ryan. Ryan, yours better than that. All further further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
And for the whoever's here in the district, if they can just make sure that their directions confirmed to their staff Monday night, that would be useful just in case, just to make sure it's clear on the record.
Good deal. Okay, moving to the administrative update.
Thank you, Your Honor. On Friday, July 26th, the IGC committee met, Mr. Joey, myself, and Councilman Golsonek. Unfortunately, Mr. Chairman Dave was not able to make the meeting. Basically, we discussed continuing issues which have been, since the committee reconvened, roadway discussions, drainage policies, and a number of other, basically, maintenance type issues. However, we did also discuss the FEMA maps, and we did that next. On July 31st, the town's consulting engineers and I attended a meeting in West Palm Beach with FEMA officials and various 38 cities throughout the county. FEMA sent a delegation down from Atlanta, and locally here, a lot of local experts got up and spoke to the FEMA officials and pretty much led their case in terms of how out of date or inappropriate we believe the current maps are. And, the county has been fighting for more time to allow FEMA to adjust these maps. However, what the FEMA officials have indicated is they are willing to look at additional data that is supplied, although they don't, not really supposed to, until they have an appeal process started, relates to the overall process. But they said they would look at data. So the public comment meetings and public input meetings are still scheduled to start September 9th. You may have noticed there was a large article in the Sunday paper about the issue of FEMA mapping. There was a recent letter that was sent to FEMA as well by 4 members of the Palm Beach legislative delegation relative to the concerns about the maps. Collectively, the cities and county, the concern is to not put a bunch of maps out there that really have potentially bad data and bad information and get all the citizens and everybody involved up in arms and all worried about something. If it can be proven that the data needs to be tweaked a bit, the mapping needs to be addressed. So the Water Management District is still working on a C-51 study. Our engineers put us in touch with them so that we can continue to be a part of that study. Mr. Yowie and I will jointly work on it to cover our mutual interests. We're going to continue to move forward from there. Our town engineers have drafted a letter which we're going to be sending to FEMA on our letterhead, giving a quick review of what we see based upon the mapping information that they've sent us. So we're going to be continuing to work on this along with Western Communities Council, along with League of Cities, along with the association with the county. So there's a lot of efforts locally here to try to keep back what could be a serious situation for you. That was an all-day technical meeting, and there may be more plans, maybe there's going to be an IPARC meeting on August 29th, so there really is an attempt to stay on top of this and try to make the appropriate corrections.
It just seems to me to be just a move to allow the insurance companies to charge a lot more money, because I don't think there's a lot in Waxahachie Groves that's lower than 17 feet above sea level. Yeah, every place, because we're flat, has the potential for flooding, and I'm aware of that. But to say that we're in a flood zone, well, then they better make all of South Florida, south of probably Route 60, a potential flood zone. Anybody that's got an elevation lower than 17 feet, because if we're going to include us, they better include everybody else. I think it's bad, and to ask for maps is really stupid, because the only thing that's going to be above that level will be the levees and the roads alongside the canal. So
this was like 6 hours of problems that people were pointing out with those maps. So it's pretty severe.
But anyway.
The next 2 items are reports that the Vice Mayor had asked me to provide some updates. I've indicated to the council via email. Last week we issued 2 notices to proceed to the Water Control District relative to road grading and rock, and the other relative to road repairs. The issue I'm speaking to relates to Compton Road. There were some road repairs that were needed. There was some fairly big potholes on the roads, and it's been reported to me that those those were patched and filled, and so we have that issue, that part of that issue is complete. Relative to the hedging is supposed to start upon completion of one complete pass throughout the town of all the hedging, so that's, hopefully we'll get the issues resolved and that'll be coming up in the near future. The other issue that the Vice Mayor asked me to provide an update on relates to Bryan Road. As you know, the town attorney provided you some information tonight in your consent agenda relative to some, I guess those were 3 properties that we need some additional title work on. And again, Bryan Road does need some repairs and resurfacing. What I will do is I will again issue another notice to proceed with the district, since that's a road repair related item. Although the question there is, we don't own Bryan Road yet, so I don't know if the council wants to wait until we officially have ownership of it. The town attorney can probably update you on efforts to make that happen. But I guess that's going to be your call, whether you want the town to spend funds to do improvements at this point or to wait until we own the road. So with that, for Mike.
Well, I just give you an update. The title work that we did get back did reflect that there is an easement in the area where Bryan Road is. So we have to do a 2-step process. We're going to have a surveyor who will just have to confirm that the road lies within that access easement, and then all the individuals, and once we confirm that the road is there, because they were all granted that non-exclusive easement from various different documents, including deeds dating back 1970 and before. Get the same paperwork that was similar paperwork from Compton and that the county did for Compton and Marcella. But, the next step would be to, and I've already talked to Mark about that, is to get the surveyor to meet with me and him as soon as possible, go over the documents we have so they can find the most cost-effective way of confirming that the road is there, maybe even survey it so it's done right. And then we go and we do the same paperwork, and so long as we can do the same thing, because if the road lies where we think it lies, we should be able to do something very similar to that at that time in a matter of weeks. But that isn't anything that can be done if there's an element there. That's not anything that can be done in a matter of days or a couple of weeks. It's going to take some time to source the surveyor and the paperwork. So, but we do have enough information to go ahead and meet with the surveyor and get that done.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the repair? Do we need to wait until all that's done?
Robbins? They want to see the motivation sign. Everybody always says that's part of the problem is the aggressive person. If you take away the care.
Well,
First of all, we've been getting gas tax funds on that ever since we came to town. Okay. Second, the liability. Okay. Compton Road was in bad shape. Now they've done a temporary fix on Compton Road, but the solution to Compton, it needs to be resurfaced just like Bryan's Road. But no, we got a responsibility as a town. We're getting gas tax dollars for that road and call it due process or whatever, ongoing process. We're trying to get it fixed to where everybody's satisfied. No, those people deserve a safe road to ride on. And we can do the same thing that the district did on Compton Road. I rode that road. It's better than what it was. Personally, it needs to be resurfaced, and I think we're working on that, so I'm going to try and be patient. But no, Bryan's Road, we don't need to question that liability, the money we've got from gas tax dollars. We need to do something to make that a safe road for the people to ride on.
all right, anybody else?
Yeah. Mike, on our process on Bryan, it's different than zoning and progress.
That's correct. It's not a zoning matter.
Right. It's, but we see a pathway to where we will have, if you will, title or
Well,
the transfer, confirming the easements that we have. But we know there's easements there now. We're questioning whether maybe we have to confirm that the roadway falls within the easements.
That's correct.
I think, to speaking to Ron's point, I think we should move ahead with that, do like we did for Compton, knowing that we're in the process of doing what we need to do to get the final I's dotted and T's crossed. I don't think there's a question whether that road falls within the town before, I don't think there's really a question of whether we have some responsibility to maintain it. There are some technical issues, and I think we're moving forward on those. I'd like us to start that process, get that patched up. And I presume, if you do it like, and now, I didn't get to ask manager, but did we do Compton with filling in the holes with gravel and then just the patch, co-patch, whatever we did on? So I know we need a better solution as Councilman Gerald has commented on, but also we all agree, I think we will move in that direction to get that improvement. So I think we need to move forward on that, get that resolved. And then we'll kind of catch up as we go through the more steps.
Okay. Does someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we allow management to go ahead and do a same notice with the water control district as it did with Compton, and get it done. Repair work. Repair work.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Jim. Further discussion?
Just as a clarification, because what we'll do is, we'll do two things concurrently. What we'll do is, I will issue a notice to proceed to the district, and we'll have our meeting out there and figure out the appropriate solution to shorten out the road for now. In the meantime, the town attorney and I will work on the second notice to proceed with the surveyor and do the appropriate survey work that he needs to move forward.
Right. So everybody all right with that, your motion? Okay. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
That concludes my report.
Okay. I have one public comment by the report, Ken Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a question talking about, and we heard this during the FAAC meeting, that insurance rates for the flood insurance could possibly go up 25%. That's for everybody in this room, every citizen in the Loxahatchee Road that owns a piece of dirt. I want to know, is there some ordinance or some law in effect that will prevent the insurance companies from raising their rates prior to all of this being resolved? That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark.
What we hear, based upon information that has been provided by the county, as you know, the state of Florida issues or writes the most flood insurance policies throughout the nation. And then 40% of those are written out of Palm Beach County, which makes us the #1 area. And of course, the concern is we're being picked on because we're a very lucrative area. Having said that, what we also hear is that, as you know, the flood insurance program is in trouble, and that's the suspicion that they're trying to make it solvent. There was a recent passage last year or early this year, the Vigorous Water Act, where the Congress is giving pretty much one more attempt to try to resolve the issues of the flood management program. What we've heard is that we could be looking at, as Mr. Johnson has indicated, a 25% increase in flood insurance rates for those people who will be getting it, or new folks. But also we hear that what the plan is another 25% insurance hike the next 4 or 5 years. So that's why it's so crucial with a lot of state here, because if you do end up having to obtain flood insurance, it could be getting very costly for you over that term.
I think probably in the next meeting, we need to stick an agenda item on there about formulating a letter from us, basically stating our objection to their findings that we're in a flood zone because of our elevations, because I think it's wrong.
If I can, I have the letter that we're going to be sending out tomorrow that our engineers have drafted.
Okay.
What I will do is I will get a copy so you all and take a look at it and see if you're all happy with it.
And that's
If not, we
fine.
can still do something.
Yeah, if that's what we need, but I want to go on record because I just object very strenuously to that. All right, moving on to 10A. Rob?
Layton, just need an update on the blind issue about his license and stuff. Where we stand and if you need direction from the council to get this moving.
Yes, Vice Mayor and members of the council, we went and looked at the minutes from the April 2nd, the April 2nd town council meeting. confirm where we left off with this ordinance. This was the residential ordinance. The motion was made to approve the ordinance, but it did not pass, which got 4 votes, which meant it failed, which meant the ordinance, the process without that ordinance is done. So we would need direction to start a new process. We could not just bring back to you that same ordinance for another first reading. We would need direction tonight to go through the process, and whether you want to go through the process again with the initial stricken language that's where we started back in, I think it was February, March, or if you want to give us direction, go in a different way to accomplish this item for residential enterprise.
Now, wasn't one of our committees working on that to come up with something?
Let me, if I could address that. As I say, we have 3 options. The first option is do nothing, which I don't think is really honest. The second option is what Michael just indicated, which is an ordinance similar to what you had before you several months ago. A third option is kind of a compendium of things. You may remember I provided a copy with Jimmo at that April meeting, which I talked about the fact that there's several things going on. And I say it from the standpoint that, as you know, Mike has advised you that you can't do anything specifically that singularly, you can't do a pathologic for the gun issue by itself. So it has to be part of a larger solution. The problem was the ordinance you had last time, you ran into a lot of the concerns from P&Z and other folks, because while it addressed the gun issue, it was potentially creating a number of other problems in the city. The other option we have is, as you know, the ULDC had recommended that as a result of the hay sales issue that came up with town council several months ago, that we do something like a historical legacy, which we have that information and working on. And the recommendation I gave in April was possibly let staff look at trying to finish that up, a historical legacy, but there are also inherent issues and problems with the residential enterprise, and there are issues and problems with the home business in our ULDC. So the other option, this one's a little longer though, because it'll take us a little more time, but is to almost try to do a comprehensive amendment which addresses the problems of all those things, and somehow try to address the issues with the miscline and guns within that effort. So it just depends on how deep, if you want us to get that detailed and try to address it like that, or if you want to take another shot at the ordinance that you had before you, knowing that that was quite unpopular and maybe unpopular again.
Right.
Tom?
I would prefer to go with the ordinance situation, but since we need 4 votes, there's no reason to do that if we're not going to have it. So, I would make a motion that we go ahead and go back to the ordinance. If it passes. Because with 4 votes, then we might get some.
Anybody else want to address it? One of my fears back then was one of our own committees at that time said we're going to open a can of worms with the handicap accessibility and all that, and so, that was one of the things that again, at that time, I thought, I don't want to get the town liable. I know we can't run scared from everything, but at the same time.
I think though we're going to run into those kinds of issues no matter what. If you're going to allow historical enterprise, historical enterprise still has to update to any of that stuff if you're going to, and if you open a nursery, I've seen people build handicap ramps up to their trailers so people can get in and out, I've seen people not, but probably the person who's not could get a ticket for that.
Yeah.
Or did a lawsuit against them for that. So we as a government are not required to look out for everybody's liabilities. They have to do that. We're not here to, Mr. Klein, no one's forcing him to go into that.
Right.
No one's forcing him to have whatever he wants to have. So if you make that decision yourself, well then you also take upon yourself those issues and those expenses. So that's my thoughts on that. I'd like to see the ordinance again on the motion to that effect.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may just second, you raised a very good point a moment ago. And just something I don't want to get into the particulars of it, but from time to time, we are starting to see issues with residential enterprise. We currently have a case right now that we're working where somebody has come in and, the residential enterprise is limited to accessory building, and of course you have to have homestead exemption. And rather than the person taking the step of coming in and trying to get the home enterprise first, has seemed to come in to get building permits. And what he has is 2 accessory structures which are larger than the home, which also violates the definition which indicates that your accessory structure should always be subordinate in area and height to your principal structure. And we know what they want to do. I mean, we're kind of playing a game there, going around trying to get the issue resolved. But I think there's issues out there sometimes where you may see people trying to jump into this residential enterprise like it's the panacea for all their problems, and it may not be. So that's one of the reasons why we recommended that longer approach. At some point, we're going to have to look at it no matter what.
Right.
That's the right pitfall.
Well, and along that legacy thing, we kind of had the ability, somebody's been doing it for so many years, and it gave us a little bit more selectivity, for that, because, somebody's been doing it, like in that situation. Jim?
Mark, what's your estimate of timeline under a couple of options? To me, if I can answer my question a little bit first, if we take the residential enterprise part of our land use, and we strike only no foot traffic, and we bring that back next meeting,
P and Z. It has to go to P and Z. So,
thank you.
I'm sorry.
P and Z is meeting,
Next one will be September, second Thursday in September.
okay, so that would be in September, October, end of September, maybe our first part of October, before we could have our second meeting. Okay, so with that in mind, kind of like, that's the fastest of the options that I can think of. How close can we make the legacy concept work? Could we also get it done by October?
Well, the legacy concept is falling into what originally was the hay sales amendment, which we were doing as a work authorization for you. And obviously, we're working on 4 right now, but, Jim and I can see about trying to move that forward. It won't be as fast as, because the other one, was very quick. We can, again, go ahead and have the ordinance ready to move through the process. This one still requires some tweaking and analysis and things like that. You're probably talking a good month of planning time at least. Would you agree? Don't want to speak for you.
Well, I think that's true. I'm going to give you sort of a convoluted long answer here. We're bringing back shortly to the council the revisions to the special exception. And as part of the special exception, we're creating a category or 2 that are essentially very simple administrative improvements. In the code now, the historical legacy is addressed to a certain extent in one section where it recognizes the fact that we have these existing non-conforming uses. However, they could be approved by special exception if they were brought back for approval within 6 months of the time that the code was adopted. Obviously, that period is up. We could simply revise that section to address the historical legacy issue, but by still requiring a special exception. But under the new special exception procedure, we could allow an administrative special exception, which would be much less costly and time-consuming than the way the code was originally written.
And a timeline on that approximately?
Well, we could do that fairly quickly if that's where we're going to go, and I think we can do it in a time frame similar to what Mark just mentioned. Bring it back and have it done by October.
Okay. Because the other thing, part of our concern or issue is that Mr. Klein's problem is you can't have foot traffic, and if we don't change that part of our land use code, he can get some kind of a special exception, but he still has a residential enterprise issue, which, so if I'm looking for how quickly to get something done. My mind, what I've got in mind is that we have something in residential enterprise, we have knowledge of how to quick fix it, it would take us to October. The thought that I have, and I'm hearing from Mark, is that there's other issues with residential enterprise, and maybe the idea of residential enterprise causes more problems than its solutions. And behind the fix, we have to decide whether we want to spend the time and money to take the one fix, which is really for one person, or we want to take a little bit longer, possibly do and repeal the residential enterprise, but we have to consider the implications of that. Remove that entirely, you don't have that, and under special exceptions, that's where Mr. Klein would fall. Sounds to me that that's, because you have the issue, you could have a special exception, but if you have a residential enterprise that says no foot traffic, they may conflict, and you may have a problem with this particular problem, this situation not being solved. So I kind of put that back to you that we could fix one temporarily almost, and then try to resolve the residential enterprise in a broader part in terms of the special exception work that you're doing and the legacy concept. Is that?
Well, yes, the historical legacy is really almost I suppose, related but separate issue from the residential enterprise.
Okay. We could.
The historical legacy is dealing in general terms with uses that exist in the town but are not permitted by the code. Okay, and how we're going to make them legal. And I think that there is a fairly simple way of addressing that by going back to that existing section in the code that provided a way of addressing those issues early on, except the time frame in the code has expired. So that option's not available. So
Can you separate the two in that if we have a residential enterprise language and you put something together with, this, the fix with special exceptions and whatnot, can we fence that separately and isolate it so that we can show Mr. Klein is under this and he's not subject to the residential enterprise? Or do we have the conflict that no matter how you look at it?
Well, the provision that Jim's talking about, which was the allow existing uses where they couldn't confirm the legality so long as they existed at the time of incorporation. If you remove that 6-month period that people had so that you could still apply it at any time is what you're saying, then if he could demonstrate that his business was in existence and that it had this characteristic, he would fall within that if you got a special exception, which gets to the second part of that section, which is the special exception right now is very onerous. So if you were going to make that a more streamlined process, you would also provide a change to the special exception process for this type of relief that would be administrative to confirm basically the existence as of the date of incorporation.
Okay.
So that would, and if someone fell within that, then they're grandfathered, I guess you would call it, in their legal conforming use, regardless of what we adopted and apply now to this point forward. Right. So,
okay. I just want one clarification because I'm looking at one is going to conflict no matter what we do. So it sounds like we need to move towards a streamlining of the special exception and legacy, and that method would be preferable.
Okay, so I don't think legacy is going to solve the problem, and I really think that if we're trying to deal with this problem, answer Ron's question, that that's not going to work. I know that for a fact. That will be solved. I'm sure for legacy, because unless you say sometime way before incorporation, not to go too deeply into it, it's not going to fall on what I've heard you talk about. More simply, Jim went to the crux of the problem. He needs foot traffic. You don't need foot traffic, like say all the exceptions and everything. So if foot traffic is the issue, that's what we need to do. And if foot traffic is, that's what's going to solve his problem. I talked to Bill about this for over an hour. Okay, he hunted me down and went on and on about this. And he's told me about what the situation is. So I know what happened last time is a misunderstanding of everything in his situation, and we went off and undid the fix. If we're going to fix the problem, we need to fix the problem. And all the rest of what we're talking about is is the ULDC fixing problem, which we know is a big problem. But if he's waiting on that, it's all right.
All right, so in the past, when we did it before, we suggested just taking out the one.
We had, at the end of the past, we had an ordinance that said, we had the ordinance, we had the words, it was all ready.
And if you guys adopted an amendment to
It was
make
bigger
more
than-
deletions,
I was
and
thinking it was
came back,
bigger than that, but
and
anyway.
came
We
back
made
for another
multiple
reason.
changes,
You
not
made
just
a lot of
one.
changes after it's presented to you with just a single change. And at the end of the day, that ordinance has amended, not.
And the one thing I wanted to point out to council is the only reason why he was made our residential enterprise was because that was the only way when he came in, that based upon our review, that we could sanction him. But as Councilman Goldsmith said, then the problem is the foot traffic became the issue. So what I'm concerned about is I don't want to jeopardize the entire residential enterprise unless we can change that for one person who we slotted in because that was one way to get him around his initial problem. So, I mean, you know, that's what you do. What you're doing is if you go back to the old ordinance, you're pretty much monkeying around with residential enterprise and maybe not in a good way, only to accommodate Mr. Klein. So I just want us to be careful whatever we try to do.
All right, what are your feelings?
You've got a motion.
We have a motion.
I'll withdraw the motion so we can talk.
Okay.
My feelings on this is that what Mark said is probably true. And maybe Bill needs to get a commercial location. But when that happens, maybe other people ought to too, because I think otherwise we're besetting it for no reason. And you got in the thing because, you know, the ATF wanted to see specific words. If we're not gonna give him those words, then he's gonna have a problem, he's gonna need to get a storefront, it's gonna cost him more money, he's not gonna sell it. That's just how it is. So, you know, if we're not gonna do it, then I don't see that we need to repeal ordinances and change this all up and down and around in circles over this issue when we have the ULDC committee working on these issues. And, you know, doing it half-cocked tonight is no way to do it. But if there's, you know, to answer Ron's question, apparently we're not getting anywhere. We were close. We almost had it solved, but it didn't work out because everybody got all concerned about that. Maybe we'd like to look at that ordinance again and see if people couldn't think about maybe, you know, the two folks that didn't pass it could think maybe I could see some changes, or maybe even, you know, maybe I could vote for it the way it is, or maybe I could say, if you guys change it, we could do something. But unless we really just get down to the brass tacks and do that, all this is just a real massive work.
You know, Your Honor, this is one alternative I didn't provide to the council, but in talking about this. The other issue is, you know, the ULDC committee did not discuss the client issue from the aspect that we're talking about tonight. Their focus originally, when you asked the item to go back to them, was related to the hay sales ordinance that we did. And then that spawned the historical legacy. If you like, the fourth option, it's not going to resolve anything in a month, but what we could do is we could take this whole issue back to the ULDC, talk to them about it, see what kind of recommendation they might want to give to you. We could bring it back. I mean, we will be meeting with them next Thursday, so it would be, I could probably get it to you via report while you're on this 20th meeting, if you're so inclined to do that. At least we'll give you some additional input.
Everybody all right with that? That sounds like that's probably the most reasonable. Come back. Maybe the answer is going to be to just reintroduce, and you know, but anyway, okay. John Ryan.
John Ryan, 3508A Road. I've been present at all the town council discussions of this issue, and I am a member of the ULDC committee. I had, in my mind, an understanding that I thought was the way to go forward on this. I pulled out the sections of the ULDC. I think we talked about before, just a simple solution for immediate action would be to eliminate item H regarding customers on the premises. Now, when we started talking about broader issues, the Planning and Zoning Board raised serious concern. We've got some very well qualified people on the Planning and Zoning Board, both Grace Joyce and Dennis Slick. and they said the changes of over and above just eliminating that item H would really have unintended consequences that would say any residential property could effectively be commercial. And that would just destroy the whole concept of block catching roads. So I think that the thing to do at this point, because the section on residential enterprise also ends by saying exceptions to the foregoing limitations shall be subject to approval by the town council, and requests shall be considered in conjunction with criteria set forth in section so-and-so special exceptions. ULDC is simplifying the special exceptions. We take out that one item H. We quit trying to change residential enterprise in any other respect. We just make that simple change. And then we rely on special exceptions to go beyond that if there are any other issues. And I think Klein's problem was that selling guns is not exempted under right to farm. So we were fitting him into something that became a nightmare. It was making him into commercial and residential, and that's not what anybody intended. And planning and zoning board said that'd be disastrous. So the simple solution is just focus on taking out item H in the residential enterprise, on the foot traffic, and relying on the simplification of special exceptions to deal with any additional issues that come up. But an awful lot of the discussion, it gets into chicken-egg situations and broader implications, and it makes it a lot more complicated than we really need to address Billy Klein's issue.
Right. Thank you, John.
I agree with Joe.
Yeah. And I would be open to that. I mean, if we came back, took that one line out, you know, I don't think it changes what our intent was for that, you know, that whole thing and then our ULDC, and just take that one line out. I mean, I was, you know, I think that might be our quickest fix.
You want a motion on it?
Well, we need a motion, whatever direction we take it to ULDC, to make a change in process of P and Z, we need direction.
All right, I make a motion that we take our current residential enterprise section, strike foot traffic item H, and bring it back as the change that we want to pursue and put it through the process. P and Z and then back to us.
Okay, second by Ryan. Further discussion?
Question, Mike. P and Z's meeting before our next meeting. No question.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, moving to we took off the last item, so the next item, so we are at closing comments. Is that where we're at?
Public comments.
Public comments. We've got one, Frank Schuyler.
Frank Schuyler, Marcel Boulevard. Two quick things. One, the Wellington Holiday Parade is December 8th. And hopefully we can get the same team back together that we had last year and hold our title as reigning king of the parade. If the town council wants to do it this year, I've already talked to Mr. Choquette, and he's going to let us use his truck and his trailer again. And this time, if we want to, he'll set aside the section of the yard where it can be decorated, so we can get in and out very easily. And I just wanted to make you aware of that, if that's something that you wanted to do. You know, we sort of have to defend our championship, so to speak. And the second thing is that, although the next thing coming up is the report on the golf carts, UTVs and all that, and I'm still, like I said last meeting, it's still a good idea by doing with licensed drivers and things like that. But, you know, just a little side note that yesterday, one of the people on their mules almost became an ornament for my truck. They were over here at Quail Drive and Fletching Canal, didn't even bother looking back. I was coming down the road and heading east, and just went ahead and just went straight out in front of me. And his eyes opened up, saw his life flash before his eyes, and this is a 65-year-old man that's been driving for years, so, but, hopefully maybe a little crash course for some of these people. As part of our thing is gonna be, if you wanna go in and operate on our roads, that there's gotta be some sort of, common sense that goes in.
Okay, the key word was crash course.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving to town attorney, Mike.
Sure, members of the town council, at the last meeting, you asked for some information on the legality of the use of certain vehicles on town roads. In particular, there was a golf cart and UTV. And I thought that the UTV was captured with the two-person ATV or with the mini trucks or with the low-speed vehicles, but that's not the case. And I missed that one, and tell me right now, and I'll go back and look for that. But I thought that my description was given last time would fall within these different categories.
Yeah, the mini trucks and
Okay, so I did capture it. Good, okay, thank you.
The only thing though, Mike, that I didn't see was any language relative to like tractors or things like that, as like ag exemption.
Well, again, I can go out there, I'll go to the cloud.
the exempts just need to triangle.
Right. So it would be,
And I just wanted to go, when you sent me with those two, I went and I found ones that the golf cart, the UTVs, the ATVs, the swamp buggy, those kind of things I thought would be useful in this memo. And basically in the conclusion, the low-speed vehicles, the mini trucks are permitted without you taking any action. Now, there's rules and regulations and the statutes for those, and I outlined in the memo. You can take action, I think, to, of course, not allow them, but if you take no action, they're allowed on the road. Swamp carts, golf carts and swamp buggies do require, swamp cart would be
there are some of those around.
I bet there are.
I know there are.
But that does require direction and action by the town council. And the main issue is that you would need to consider in doing that is to designate the roads on which they can be safely operated. So you need to have a consideration that they're safe for the conditions of those particular roads. And once you do designate those roads, there's signage that needs to be put up to tell the golf cart and swamp buggy folks, yes, you can use it, but also to warn the drivers that there may be golf carts and swamp buggies on the road. So I don't have a form of that sign, but the first step is whether you want to, if you want to put it on for action at the next meeting, to give direction and consider the roads that you would like us to, or the town administration to review, and whatever rules you may need to make. But once those roads are designated, I would recommend resolution to designate those roads with whatever review you may do to confirm that their vehicles can be safely operated. And if you're going to make a difference between some roads allowing swamp buggies and some roads allowing golf carts, then you do two separate resolutions. So,
Okay. All right, someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion, right?
Okay, Tom makes a motion, we bring it back to the agenda item at the next meeting. Second by Ryan. Further discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Mike, on golf carts, no matter any time on the roadway, they have to have, be fitted with a rear view mirror and red reflectorized warning devices front and rear. As I understood what you gave us.
yeah.
Is that a restriction that they are after, between, after 7 o'clock?
Yeah, my favorite standards are efficient brakes and reliable steering. Those are my two favorite standards that have to be on your golf carts. But yes, you would not be able to, and the one issue that came up was the age, and the statute does prohibit a golf cart on public roads. The minimum age is 14, so you don't have the kids. And I know there was, I didn't bring it up in here, I know there was a comment made at the last meeting from Mr. Shiola about the development by Ocala, the villages. There's a different statute for golf carts and senior communities, as you can imagine. So I did not.
Wait a minute,
Yeah.
we're halfway there right now.
I didn't want to over-legal analyze that, but anyway, I just pointed out for the record since it was mentioned.
So do we need to officially make owls over here like the golf cart vehicle inspection station? No, we're not going to do that. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. All right, Mike, anything else?
We did, I want to make you aware, we did get a request by a property owner that we abandoned a road that's on our public roads. It's 13th Place North. It just happens to be the first request we've gotten on that. So we're going to work with Mark and we're going to put together a process. But at the end of the day, the town council will have to authorize the vacating of the road they've designated as public. There will have to be some sort of description of the area. We can't just take a marker and strike it from the list. But I'll work with Mark and we'll come up with a reasonable process so it's not an expensive burden on that and expense to the town. But ultimately, the town council will have to authorize that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay.
Go Gators.
Moving to town council members. Tom, we'll start off.
I'm glad to be present when history's made, and I'm not going to stay here any longer, so thanks for coming.
Ron?
I'm gonna try and stretch it out. Supervisor,
Ryan?
Supervisor Robert Snowball's in the hospital. He's gonna have surgery tomorrow morning at 11:30, so keep him in your prayers and everything will go smooth. The other thing, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue had a news release in August, all your insurance people, because they've got a better rating for the western communities. They're going from what they call a 4/9 to a rating of 3 because the insurance, the ISO has gave them credit for what they call tanker shuttling. And we've got a tanker right here in the middle of Los Hatches Station 21. So just keep abreast of what's happening with fire rescue. They've increased what they call their 3-inch supply lines to a 5-inch supply line. So they work hard to, with response time and tankers and bigger supply lines, they finally dropped us down, hopefully in August, to a Class 3 rating. So you might check with your insurance companies and check with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue and see what you can do. Maybe get a decrease while we're trying to fight FEMA to keep them from raising it. The other thing is, it's early tonight. I've got a petition here for the red light at Southern and D Road. If you have a minute, I'd appreciate it if you take time to sign it, if you support it. And if you got any questions about it after the meeting, I'll be glad to explain to you where we're coming from. Thank you.
Okay, Ryan?
Same thoughts as Tom. I think this is a record for us, and I want to thank the staff and the council for making this a short meeting. And
Okay, Jim?
I want to thank certainly everybody for coming. There's more people here when we get done earlier, and obviously it is a record. But I want to ask the council, since we left this unsaid, are we looking for a manager, town manager homes valuation that we have called out in our contract, or does the council not care to have that done this year? I think we should have it, evaluation, which is based on criteria that we have to know in the contract, which includes an annual report. And then leave it up to town manager to schedule. But that's my question to the council.
Okay. Do you want to put this on the agenda and talk about it next meeting? Or Mark, you want to?
That's what I thought my direction was. I thought
What's that?
I was going to bring this on the agenda for you, your direction.
Okay.
How you want us to address it.
I know I had talked to Mark, and I think a form that listed their duties, just with a 1 to 5 on the side, would probably satisfy, as far as I'm concerned, that's probably what we need to do. That way each one of us can take it, do an evaluation, turn it back in. You know, and something along that line. I know I don't want to see a whole list of his contractors, but if we put the highlights and then put a thing there on the side, if we need to take it up in the next meeting, I mean, I really don't want to deal with it tonight, but anyway, you know, that might be something that we can agree to and have something along that line, and then we use the same form.
Well, it needs to be comprehensive, but
Well, yeah, but,
everything, there's a lot of things in there, and I think we need to move them. But I think it shouldn't be just up to be effectively 20% of it. So that's what, you know, I mean, if I'm doing an evaluation myself, I'm gonna pick the kids to be least, number of items that I do the best, and that's why you're gonna rate them.
well, no, I think it should include, you know, all of the criteria he has in that. Okay, and the only thing I've got is, and this is going to seem maybe a little strange to some, but I would like to look into the possibility. If anybody watched the news, in Pennsylvania, there was a very nasty situation where a very disgruntled landowner that didn't like what council did came into a meeting and proceeded to shoot 3 people. And so I'm glad Lieutenant Combs is here. Appreciate that. But, you know, at the same time, I would like to look into the possibility of what it would take to allow the residents of our meetings, those that have the legal right to carry, to be carried. Because I find it very interesting that most of these places, that particular one, the residents jumped on the guy, took his gun away from him, and shot him with his own gun. But you know what? I'm a firm believer that you know that when people have gone through the background checks and proven themselves to be proficient, that they should have the right to carry, and I think it can save lives. So I would like to look into the possibility of that. I know our original council, 4 of the 5 members all had carry permits. Now, we could go with a bulletproof glass and everything else would help you all. You know? So unless you're afraid of shooting
There's
you.
a statute on that, and I know there was a statute about carrying in meeting rooms with a governing body met. I'll just look and see, because I know it's changed with this.
Look into it.
I just won't take me that much time, I'll just go and look at it and see what it is, I'll provide you guys a copy of it.
That's what I'm looking for. So anyway, and with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?